Actually thank Evan for introducing me to the photo booth option, because it alleviates the issue of who's on the screen, and it is a clearer video, I believe, and it seems to be downloading really well to YouTube. So thank you, Evan. And let's settle into our practice. Let's begin with the breath. If you're comfortable seated, then take a seat. If it would be more comfortable for you to be standing, you could try that. You can also lie down if that's the best way to relax into the breath. So if you are seated, feel into how your sit bones meet your prop and try to make sure they're even, because this is a foundation for your seat. So as much as possible, we want even weight on the sit bones. For some of you with scoliosis, that might mean supporting a sit bone to help you balance the base for the spine. And then imagine that the hot air balloon is lifting you, and remember that you have a choice in your relationship with gravity. You could be a ton of bricks, or you could be a feather. So you get to choose your relationship with gravity. And if you let the hot air balloon lift you, you might find that it isn't as effortful as growing up from the ground. And you may be able to then relax away from the lift at the center of your palate, where hard and soft palates meet, and relax the shoulder girdle away from the ears, and feel a stretch in the muscles of the neck and at the shoulder girdle. Many of us carry tension here, and when we get tense or worried, tend to crunch the shoulders up towards the head. This can cause a stiffening of this tissue and an overdevelopment in this area. So during breathing practice, see if you can relax and exhale the shoulder girdle away from the lifting head. Down around, if you will, the elongating spine. And then for a moment, let yourself sway forward to back, like you're a sapling in the breeze. So you aren't stiff. You have some sway in the whole length of the spine, like a young tree that's able to bend. Feel into that swaying as if you were gently rocking, and see if this rocking can soothe the nervous system. Even as you feel for where you activate the front core as you sway back. Let the head rest back while you're swaying. Even when you sway forward, can the head rest gently back? These are some precursor curiosity activities for our spine workshop. And then come to your neutral. Breathing in along the column of the spine. Exhaling, we're allowing the shoulder girdle to release away from the head. The hot air balloon is lifting you the whole time. The shoulder girdle may bob up towards the head on the inhale, and then release on the exhale. And notice where your inhale naturally goes. Really try to notice. For me today, I'm noticing that I'm filling my right front quadrant. That's interesting. So then I begin to play. I put a little more weight on my left sit bone because I realize I'm swaying towards my right. I'm also turning towards my right because of my scoliosis. So I unwind slightly towards my left and invite the breath into the left front body. So I realize my body is not your body. I'm just giving you this as an illustration. Feel into where your breath naturally goes. And then experiment with, can I feel one of the other quadrants if you're tending to breathe into one? Or if you find yourself breathing into the whole front of the body, can you breathe into the whole hemisphere of the back body? Inviting the breath deep to the pelvic floor. Fill three-dimensionally up to the shoulder girdle. Try not to strain or overwork, and invite a deep and full inhale and relaxed exhale. Relax the jaw gently, the lower jaw gently away from the upper jaw. And then grasshopper the jaw back and forth, like a grasshopper chewing. Let the jaw move side to side. See if you can do this with some level of relaxation, which might mean making the movement smaller. Notice if this movement has an impact on your ears. On your sinuses or your eyes. And then take your jaw off to the left, down towards the floor, the low jaw, over to the right and up in a circle. Circle the lower jaw. You may try it really small and then larger, or really large and then smaller. And then come to the top and circle the other way. Hot air balloon still lifting you. Lower jaw relaxing away from upper jaw. Come back to neutral. Really let the jaw unhinge. The mouth can be slightly open. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Now imagine that besides the hot air balloon lifting you from center palate, there's a hook just under the base of your skull at the back of the skull, lifting you. Let the base of the skull lift, even as the center palate lifts. The chin may nod a little towards the sternum. Let the back of the base of the skull lift slightly. Your gaze may turn a little forward. Really let there be a lift there. The jaw is still relaxed. And then come back to neutral. Fluid, three-dimensional breath filling you from pelvic floor to top of the shoulder girdle. Not straining for the breath, inviting a fluid, three-dimensional breath to fill you and then to leave you. Noticing the exhale and inviting it to be complete. Invite the breath to flow up the spine, massaging you between the vertebrae. To flow down the spine. To flow up the spine on the inhales and down the spine on the exhales. All the way up inside the skull. Jaw still relaxed. Now really train your concentration on the sensations along the spine as the breath moves up and down the spine. If you notice stiff or tight places, invite them to relax, to stretch open on the inhales and release on the exhales. And then again, sway gently front to back. Stay with your fluid breath. Notice where you may strengthen along the column of the spine as you sway. Become conscious of those places where you stabilize. Perhaps you feel the front abdominal core. Perhaps you feel muscles right in along the spinal column, becoming stronger, more activated to continue to hold you upright. We want to become more conscious of these stabilizers. Now gently sway side to side. And again, feel for stabilizers along the spine activating as you sway. Feel what your abdominal core muscles do, what your side bodies and back do. Stay with your breath. See if you can sway both directions on an inhale and both directions on an exhale. With a conscious desire to lengthen on the inhales and relax, even though some muscles may be activating on the exhales. Really wake up your curiosity and feel in along the spine. Now take your swing into a circle, one direction. Remember, the circle does not have to be large, and that the hot air balloon is still lifting you and circling with you overhead. See if that circling hot air balloon can keep the curves of your spine long, stretching the spring of your spine, but not so long that your spine has become taut. Feel into your waistline, to your low back, to your front abdomen. Notice what helps to stabilize you. This is a building consciousness activity. And then sway to the front and take your circles the other direction. Hot air balloon still lifting you, low jaw still relaxed. Fluid breath in through your nasal passages to fill you three-dimensionally. Shoulders still relaxing away from ears. Come back to center and pause with your three-dimensional breath. Relaxing on the exhales with a long spine still drawn skyward by the hot air balloon. Like you're draping the rest of the body over the column of the spine. Now breathe sky between the vertebrae. Breathe ocean water into the discs between the vertebrae. And let yourself rest into stillness. We are anhungered after solitude, deep stillness, pure of any speech or sound, soft, quiet hovering over pools profound. The silence that on the deserts brood, above a windless hush of empty seas, the broad unfurling banners of the dawn, a fairy forest where there sleeps a fawn. Our souls are fain of solitudes like these. O woman who divined our weariness and set the crown of silence on your art, from what undreamed of depths within your heart have you sent forth the hush that makes us free, to hear an instant, high above earth's stress, the silent music of infinity. Let's feel for this quiet stillness inside our bodies, inside the music of our breath today in practice. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. Namaste. Okay, let's begin with standing Qigong today. Let's come to standing, feet outer hip distance wide, and let the hands shake and the knees bob lightly. Imagine a spring day, the vibrations of the plants and animals, and let them run through you like you're an iris lifting its blossom out of a pond, feeling a light breeze. Invite the energy to flow through you. And then inhale and soften and let your palms touch either side of a full moon and let the moon rise skyward on your inhale. And let it go with a quick exhale and let the arms float down like wings as wide as is comfortable in your shoulder girdle. And then inhale, palms on either side of the full moon. Let your arms rise, your gaze rise, and exhale. And one more time. Inhaling, the arms float skyward. And as you're ready, the arms float back down. And this time, as the arms float skyward, let your gaze lock on to the left thumb. And as your arms float down, the gaze stays on the left thumb all the way around, training our eyes, training our concentration. Follow your own breath on the inhale and the exhale. Inhaling. Eyes still on that left thumb, not leaving it. We train ourselves towards still and quiet movement. Eyes now on the right thumb. Wings balanced as they open. We inhale and exhale. Feet lightly rooted into the ground. Aware of sky all around us. And let your arms rest in Wu Ji, boundarylessness. filling from pelvic floor to the upper spine. Invite the breath to massage its way up the spine like a spring of water geysering out at the top of the head. And then let the water roll back down the spine in a massage. Can you create space in the spine without stiffening it, lengthening it? Now invite one arm. Let's take the left arm skyward. Slowly up. Let it pause like a crescent moon. And imagine your fingers and thumb are holding on to a string and lengthening the spine up over the top of the head. And now they lengthen it off to the right in a little crescent bend. Long right side. And they draw the fingers and thumb, the skull back to center, and slightly take it to the left. Long spine. And then come back to center. And the arm releases back down to your side. And we inhale and lift the right arm up. It's a crescent moon. Can you feel into where this arm connects into the shoulder girdle and into the spine? And notice if you've hitched it a lot higher than the hip. Can you create a neutral shoulder girdle above a neutral pelvis with the arm rising up? And then bring the fingers and thumb over the center of the skull. And inhale, lengthen the spine like you're a marionette puppet. And take the string to the left, crescenting the spine slightly to the left. Shoulder girdle turns and inclines from the left shoulder towards earth. And then come back to center. And now lift the head over to the other side. Shoulder girdle becomes like a plank. Right shoulder facing earth, left shoulder higher. And then come back up and release the right arm down to your side. Wu Ji, boundaryless. Can you relax into this pose? Inviting sky to fill you, pores opening. Inviting waters to flow through you. Now with the hands just here in front of the lower dantian, knees bend slightly. From the base of your spine, slowly twist towards the left. And then come back to center. And from the base of the spine, slowly twist to the right. Let the head turn last and look out the far corners of the eyes. And unwind. Take it slow. And don't feel like you have to take it into your full range of motion. A slow twisting of the spine, looking out the far corners of the eyes into the twist. We train the muscles of the eyes because they're important to us. We want our sight to last. Coming back to center. Let your gaze go skyward with your face still in neutral. So you're not looking up by tilting the head, you're just looking up towards the eyebrows. And then look down to earth without tilting the head and up towards sky. Feel a stretch in the eyes. Notice if one eye is different from the other. Down towards earth, up towards sky, and back to neutral. Let your eyes rest back in their sockets and look to the left. Both eyes turning to look out the corners and look to the right and to the left and to the right and back to center and down and up. And from the up, take your eyes around to the right and down to the earth and around the left and up. And then down, around to the left, to the earth, and up along the right. And close the eyes and rest. Hot air balloon lengthening the spine three-dimensional breath. Let the eyes really rest. Now walk your feet in slightly to Tadasana and click your heels together if it's comfortable for you. And inhale, feel the length of the spine, hug the buttocks gently towards one another, lifting the pelvic floor, draw the navel in and up. Feel along the column of the spine and try to invite the stabilizer muscles to activate. Feel all the way up along the spine and notice where you feel the stabilizers and where you don't. And then take just your left arm out like a wing and let it guide you into a twist and come back. Only you're activated along that center core channel. You're not stopping movement, but you're aware of movement. The spine is actually ready for movement as you inhale and open. And exhale, draw back. Take the right arm open. I'm watching deer move through the woods. It's cool. And come back. And open. And back. Aware of the muscles along the spine as you open and draw back. And now open the arm and the leg. They're so beautiful as they move. And draw back. And open the other arm and leg. And draw back. And inhale, open. And exhale, closed. Feel into the spine, conscious of its length and its fluidity. Allow for space in the movement. And it doesn't have to be large, but really try to be conscious of the spine as you move the limbs. And then last side, draw back in and lift the left arm out at a diagonal up and let it come back down towards the hip. And as you lift the arm, lift the knee and come back down. And as you lift the arm and the knee, lift the foot if you can and come back down. Feel into the strong side of the spine, how the buttocks can hug in to help, how the pelvic floor can lift to help, how you can activate along the column of the spine to help as you move the left limbs. Let your consciousness be in the stability and where the limbs move from, closest into your torso. One more. And release. Pause in the center in Wu Ji. Fluid breath filling you and relaxing you. Column of the spine, long hot air balloon lifting you. Take the right wing up at that diagonal and back down. Remember, it can be small. It could be part way up and part way down, or you can lift long and tall. But feel into any changes that happen in the spine because of that movement of the limb. And notice if your buttocks can turn on to give stability to the movement. Notice if your pelvic floor can lift to give stability to the movement. If your navel can draw in and up. And if you can feel for stabilizers along the spine as the knee lifts and lowers. Inhaling and exhaling. And perhaps the foot lifts and lowers. What has to activate to stabilize you? Focus on the stability instead of the movement. And if you focus on the movement, focus close in at the femur bone in the hip socket, at the humerus bone in the shoulder socket. And pause. Wu Ji. Placing your hands on your pelvis. Inhale, grow the spine tall. And gently side bend to the left. Now ground the feet down into earth. Lift the pelvic floor, lengthen. Come back to center. And gently side bend right. Ground into earth. Hug glutes towards center, lifting the pelvic floor, lengthen. And come back to center. A gentle sway side to side, grounding the feet. So we've done a lot of work in the front body with navel in and up. Try to feel for muscles along the inner side of the spine, strengthening as you side bend to support the movement. Make it small enough that you can really still find some length. Large enough that you can feel for both an ease and fluidity of movement. Water inside the discs. Space in between the vertebrae. And stability grounding you. And then come back to center and rest in Wu-Ji. Now right here, place a hand on the belly and a hand on the sternum at the heart center. Ground through the tailbone and let the navel hug in and up, pelvic floor lifting. Feel into the support under the hand at your belly. And then lift the whole circle of the lowest ribs and lift the heart under the hands. Find space between each of the vertebrae as you come into a slight back bend, lengthening the spine through the top of the head. Let the geyser come up through your feet, up through the center channel of your legs, up through the pelvic floor along the spine and out the top of the head. And then exhale forward. Bend your knees slightly. Still a lift at the pelvic floor, navel in and up. Curl forward towards the earth. And then unwind back to neutral, straightening the legs, lifting through the legs, up through the pelvic floor, along the spine, out the top of the head, back bend. And then forward, navel in and up, even as you cat curl slightly forward. And lift. Pelvic floor gently active. Legs grounding, outer legs hugging center line, buttocks active, creating a container for the movement. Long spine. And release your hands into Wu-Ji. Now imagine a hand at your sacrum. You could actually put the back of one hand there if you'd like. And a hand at the back of the heart. And let the hand at the sacrum help you ground as the hand at the back of the heart lifts and lengthens the spine skyward in the same movement into the back bend. Have a hand at your inner shoulder blades lifting. And then exhale as you curl forward, arch into the hand between the shoulder blades. Arch into the hand at the sacrum. And then inhale and lift. Remember, these motions can be as small or as large as is good for your body. Even as the hand at the sacrum grounds you, the navel hugs in and up in the front body. But imagine a navel at both side waists, and there's energy along the side columns of the spine hugging in to support your movement as well. They're not gripping, they're not stiff, they're not boards. They're fluid and nimble. They're strong, but they're not stiff. And then come back up and pause in Wu-Ji. And step 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, and let your arms swing back so that the front foot empties. And your arms swing forward so the back foot empties. And try to center your spine over the movement. Place your shoulder girdle where it best helps you balance. Think of that heart lifting. that hand between your shoulder blades. You can rely on these hands to support you. What we're doing is building proprioceptive awareness in the outer body to help us limit our movement in the inner body so that we can move with more grace and ease. Fluid breath, finding balance, finding quiet inside the movement. There's stillness. Now, how much ease can you bring to the movement, even with the strength you need to stabilize the center column of the spine? Can your jaw still relax? Your eyes rest back in their sockets. Can you even feel a gentle lift from the base of the skull skyward? All the actions we practiced in breathing. And then step your feet even and switch sides. Remember, maybe a smaller step will be an easier place to balance. The step doesn't need to be large. Make the movement small and graceful. Part of that is becoming aware of where we are in space. We're not moving from the limbs, we're moving from the center channel of the spine. Settle into your own stillness as you move. The peace inside the vitality of a spring day. And come back to your Wuji. Hot air balloon lifting you, jaw relaxed. Feel down the column of your spine, noticing sensations, inviting breath. See if right here, standing tall, you can stretch between any of the vertebrae. Stretch and then release away from the hot air balloon. And clicking your heels together once again, draw the backs of the hands up the center channel of the spine and press the hands out, fingers spread, and inhale. Look out over the left fingers and exhale across to the right and inhale to center, pausing. Stay with your breath and feel again into hugging towards that center channel from the outskirts of the body. Really find the actions, wake up the body without gripping, hug. Hug yourself from the skin inward. And then release. Hands come up the center channel of the body. You're still hugging. Even as you press the hands out and inhale, look out over the right fingertips. And exhale slowly around to the left. And inhale. And exhale back to center, holding this position. Relaxed jaw, a lifted base of skull. Even here, can you breathe into the tissue that's stretching open? You invite sky. Feel into the long, strong center channel of the body and release your wings. And roll one shoulder up and release it down the back, and the other shoulder up and release it down the back. Now you could bend your knees and stretch the whole side body, but we do this with an awareness of how does this action affect the spine. And in addition, we pay attention to the head and neck as we move. How do they change position? And do they change position in a healthy way in our bodies? And then let's take both shoulders up and down and step one foot forward and exhale our wings and inhale to the front toe. Now really let yourself come to the center channel of the body. Paying attention, now that the legs are apart and asymmetrical, how can you activate up through that center channel from the ground to the pelvic floor? Up the length of the spine as perhaps the foot lifts off the ground and lands. And can your positioning of that center channel of the body all the way up through the head, can that have an impact on your balance? And then from the center channel, perhaps we move the wings in different ways, but stay in tune with that center channel of the body and how it's positioned in space. Stay in tune with hugging the glutes gently in to support the pelvic floor lifting and our awareness of the center channel of the body in space. It's a fluid channel. We inhale up it and exhale, release along it. Can you feel that even here? And then step this foot down and the other foot forward, staying with your breath. Inhaling, we rise. Exhaling, we lower. Can the hot air balloon still lift you from the center palate? And you feel the center channel dangling down from that lift at the hot air balloon. Can you strengthen in from the base at the pelvic floor up along the length, even as you relax away from the hot air balloon? Competing energies and sensations, we can become aware of the ways to activate to keep this center channel in our consciousness. As our wings may move in different ways, can the shoulder girdle stay relaxed away from the base of the skull? Fluid breath and fluid movement. And then let's land. And pause again in Wuji. Head resting back, breathing space between the vertebrae. Breathing ocean water into the discs. Ease and fluidity into the center channel. Okay, so let's continue to elongate and become aware of this center channel. First, let's come to the side, and you can stand against the wall here if your arm doesn't want to go up the wall, or palm up the wall, lengthen up, lifting. Let's keep our feet at least 6 inches from the wall and lengthen up and see, can I bring, as I lengthen, bring my hip to the wall in a bit of a supported side bend. Ground each foot into the floor Broad across the shoulder girdles, lift the low rib ring, navel comes in and up. Can you feel along both sides of the spine? Perhaps it feels good to lift the other arm, perhaps all the way up. Feel into the center channel and activate from the outside of the feet, up the outside body that you're leaning towards. Lifting the pelvic floor, lengthening the column. Be aware of the side you're bending towards. Now, some of you will stay here. Some of you will be able to take the arms off the wall and bend towards the center of the room. Find your strength along the column of the spine, especially along the side you're bending towards, but also on the side you're bending away from, because there's going to be muscle action holding you back from falling into the center of the room. Don't forget the grounding into the feet and the active glutes towards midline. And then inhale back up and release. Pause with your breath. And notice if there's a difference in arm length from the one that was in the center of the room to the one that was along the wall. Fluid breath. Stretching the myofascia matters. And then let's turn to the other side. Reaching this arm up the wall. You may begin with the palm facing the wall just to kind of feel your way up the wall. Remember, feet are about 6 inches from the wall. We lengthen the spine first and then bring the hip towards the wall, grounding the feet, lifting through the pelvic floor, lengthening up the column of the spine. Perhaps we lift the inner wing. Perhaps we bring it all the way up beside the ear, palm facing palm. And then we ground the feet and lengthen into this crescent pose. Now, those with osteoporosis or pinya, you may be best working right here without the side bend. If you feel like you can lengthen in side bend without compressing vertebrae on vertebrae and lift even just a millimeter from the wall, then you can do so. Some of you may be able to side bend farther. How far you go isn't the point. The point is to really become conscious along the length of the spine and let the myofascial system stretch open. Grounding the tailbone, navel in and up, lifting the pelvic floor and feeling up the length of the spine. And then inhaling back up, releasing the hip from the wall and stepping back into your mountain pose. Shoulder girdle relaxing away from ears. Feel into your own body. Now we've just done some good side bending. Let's open in the front. If you have a Gertie ball or a child's ball, pick that up. If you don't, you could use a block or, a stiff kind of small round bolster, whatever you have. Right at the front of the sternum, come into a Tadasana, heels under sit bones. So we're not leaning into the ball with our feet way back. We don't have the feet way up towards the wall to lean us back. We're in our Tadasana pose, shoulder blades on the back body. Now you're tall. Let the hyoid bone rest back so the chin isn't jutting forward. And inhale, slowly lengthen by lifting the lowest set of ribs away from the pelvis and the grounding legs. Lengthen up the column of the spine and let the hands open wide. They don't need to come forward and touch the wall. Inhale, find the shoulder blades supporting the lift of the heart. Remember that hand at the back between your shoulder blades. Let it lift the heart center, lift the sternum. The head rests back. Shoulder girdle broad, releasing away from the ears. But that doesn't mean you're squashing in the thoracic spine. You're lengthening, inviting sky between each vertebrae. Tailbone grounding, pelvic floor lifting. Navel in and up. Find your side navels. Come in and up along the side spines towards just under the armpits. Along the side spines, up past the ears, through the top of the head. And release. Now take the ball behind your back between the shoulder blades. Again, come into your Tadasana. Right here, find your bandhas. Lift of the pelvic floor, Navel in and up. Don't over-activate them. Find the glutes hugging center line. Breathe along the whole column of the spine. And notice if you already want to hinge right at the ribs, where the ribs meet the low back. We want to resist that urge by grounding the tailbone. Lengthen up the whole column of the spine. Let the palms turn up, thumbs back, and lift the heart. Now you have a little more support at your back body. As you ground the tailbone, really find length in the back body, the back, low back, the back of the neck. Ground through the feet and notice how that will help you stabilize the lower spine. Arms drawing back. Breathe deep into the whole chest. A supported back bend. Tailbone towards earth. A lift at the low back ribs. Don't over stiffen. Allow the breath to wash in and wash out. Really finding that length along the column of the spine. Balance the rooting of your feet. And then exhale. Release. Release the ball and bring your hands to the wall. And let your hands reach way up high on the wall, coming to the balls of your feet. Glue your fingers up high on the wall and slowly release your heels towards the floor. Don't let all the stretch come from your shoulders coming up around your ears, but really feel the pelvis releasing away from the lowest ribs. The navel in and up will stop you from flaring the ribs forward. A lifted pelvic floor. And then see if you can maintain this length in the spine as you walk back towards a half dog, remembering it does not have to be parallel to the floor, but it can be if that's best in your body. Bend your knees, take your sit bones wide and your inner thighs back, and then straighten the legs again, grounding in to one foot. Float the other leg up behind you, toes pointing towards the floor. See if the opposite arm of the lifted leg can float off your wall and float out like a wing. Feel into the length of your spine from tailbone along sacrum. Feel the bandhas help support you all the way up through the neck, through the top of the head. Remember that action of the hook lengthening the back of your skull. Let the back of your neck grow long as that back of the skull is tractioned away from your shoulders. And then release your leg and arm. Come back to your half dog, knees bent. And step forward, floating up to your Utkatasana, fierce pose. Tailbone towards earth, pelvic floor lifted. Check that your knees are aligned over your second metatarsals. They're not coming in towards the midline. And invite in your three-dimensional breath. Your arms can be up, hands could be at your heart, or arms could be open, palms up, thumbs wide. Find the position that's best in your body today. If you're really working on releasing shoulder girdle away from the skull, then perhaps the arms open wide is the best position today. Fluid breath. And then stand up tall, reaching for the sky. Interlace your fingers, thumbs to the base of the skull, traction the base of the skull skyward. Rest your head in your hands, elbows curling around the front body. Reach the elbows skyward. Long spine. Standing back bend. Remember the rooting tailbone. The low back ribs resting back. That whole lowest rib ring lifting away from the pelvis gently, not too hard. And exhale, release your arms, mountain pose. Let your body recalibrate into a relaxed mountain with the hot air balloon lifting you and the shoulder girdle relaxing away. Fill the whole torso with breath. Relax on the exhales, outer body relaxing over the skeletal frame. And then bring your hands again to the wall, walk them up high. Fingertips gluing onto the wall. Release the heels. Release the pelvis away from the lowest ribs. Long spine here, tailbone earthward. Breathe sky between the vertebrae. Breathe ocean water into the discs. And then slide back, long spine, into your half dog at the wall. Now it's been a little while. We have to remember which foot we lifted. But find your natural curves first. The integration at the shoulder girdle. Activate your bandhas, a lifting pelvic floor, a lifting navel, in and up along the front of the spine. But draw strength along the side spines as well. And then float your next leg up. Reach the four corners of the foot back like you could step on a wall behind you. And perhaps the opposite arm of the lifted leg releases from the wall and floats out like a wing. Pause here, integrating your limbs into the torso. Find the long spine, even the base of the skull stretching away from the shoulder girdle. Building strength and awareness of the center column and how the limbs interact with that center column. And release. And come back into your, bend your knees. Come back into your Utkatasana. Long back of the neck. Feel into the strength of your legs. And if you'd like, open your arms, palms up, shoulder girdles releasing away from skull. Breathe space between the vertebrae and the neck. Breathe water into the discs. And inhale, stand tall, reaching skyward. Interlace your fingers the funny way. Thumbs to the base of the skull. Stretch the base of the skull away from the shoulder girdle. Release the shoulder girdle away from the thumbs. Elbows wrap around the head forward and rest the head back as you ground the tailbone. Navel in and up, pelvic floor lifting. Glutes active towards midline. Create a container for your stretching spine. And invite an awareness of your three-dimensional breath. Even as the body's active, can you invite in three-dimensional breath? And release. Tadasana. Let your body recalibrate in the pose. Fluid breath. Okay. Let's bring in our prop, whether it's a chair or a block or our own shin for Trikonasana. And step your feet wide. Let's have the chair or the block to your left, behind your left foot, as we turn the left foot out and lift the right heel back. Opening the arms into your star pose. Right here, pause. Shoulder girdle resting away from the lift at the center palate. Let the low jaw release. And again, grasshopper it. Relax the low jaw and see if by relaxing the low jaw, you can also relax muscles at the base of the skull. Really try to feel into the jaw and the base of the skull. And these muscles interact with tension in the neck and the cervical spine. Bring the right hand to your hip and reach the left arm forward. Think of all that energy around the whole column of your spine, lengthening the spine. And remember, it's not coming low that matters. You may even have a block on your chair. Your fingertips may come to your chair, your palm may come to your chair or to your block, depending on your level of openness in the hips to lengthen the spine. And then unfurl your top arm into the pose. Can you feel from pelvic floor up along the spine to the top of the head? And move in your pose to make the vertebrae, the spine, more comfortable in your chosen Trikonasana. Think across your shoulder girdle. Where would be best for your stabilizing hand? So if you're way up in the pose like this, perhaps you're bringing your hand into your rib cage if you want support here. You know, you're just lifting into the rib cage and up. You may also have a higher dresser or something that you put your hand on, okay? Wherever you are, feel into the spine. Is this okay? Ask your body. Can I come to stillness in this pose? Can I find quiet inside my breath here? And if not, modify. And then grounding the feet. Float back up out of the pose into your star pose. And turn the front leg in with awareness of the column of the spine. Turn the right leg out and come again into your star pose. Right here, the glutes hug center. You're lifting the pelvic floor, lengthening up the spine. It's not how low you go that matters. Left hand to the hip, right arm lengthens. Lengthen the column of the spine. Let that be most important as you choose your position. Feel into the grounding wing. Make sure the head of the arm bone isn't popping forward, and float the other arm out. Your limbs move out from this center channel. A lifting pelvic floor along the spine. Feel into how you can create strength along the column. Wings on the back body. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Feel into the spine. And then grounding the legs, still be conscious of the spine as you float back up. What core muscles activate to support you? And turn the right leg in. Step together and pause in your mountain pose with your fluid breath. Okay. Then I'm going to invite you to take a high side plank today. And that would be either coming back to your wall with your feet out slightly to lean into the wall. You may externally rotate the arm towards the pinky finger slightly to have more comfort in the arm against the wall. You could be on fingertips, but probably better in this to be on your palm with your finger pads active and your fingers a tiny bit curled up like spider fingers. Okay, you could be here, or you could choose to take this from a chair with one hand on the chair, the other foot stepped forward, and lift into your Vashistasana here. Hand grounding you. Make sure that your piece of furniture is not going to slide out if you're not on the wall. Okay, I don't think the wall will slide. Make sure your feet are supported on a sticky mat. Some of you will stay with the top leg perpendicular if you're on a chair. Some of you will be able to stack your feet. Find that lifting pelvic floor, that navel in and up, but find the strength under the side body, the left side body. Feel into that. Can you still broaden across the shoulder girdle? Feel into the strength you're building. You're inviting the arm to build bone density off into the shoulder girdle. Feel along the spine. Can you move your hips and your shoulder girdle in any way that's going to make it more comfortable in your stretch? And then step over and come up and release into standing. Fluid breath. You could also take your Vashistasana on the floor. I think it's good to feel it in different positions. because we'll work muscles differently, but feel free to take Vashistasana on the floor as well. Okay, let's switch sides. If you're coming to the wall, remember you can turn the hand out towards the pinky slightly. As you step out, you want the wrist in line with the shoulder, but you don't want the hand to end up way above you. If that doesn't feel good, you may walk the hand down as you step out. It's a lift of the pelvic floor, a hugging in of the glutes, a lift of the side body you're leaning towards. Okay, and if you're coming to your Vashistasana on a chair, you step the top leg over. Karate chop with the bottom outer edge of the foot so you don't sickle. And lift the opposite wing. Fluid breath. You may pause here or stack your feet. Find that lift through the pelvic floor, navel in and up. That strong column of the spine. And if your hand is uncomfortable on your chair, you could put a sticky mat underneath. Fluid breath. Lifting from the underside. Can you feel into the whole column of the spine and modify the pose, your positions of shoulders and hips to find more comfort and ease, even as you find strength. And then lift back out of the posture and pause in mountain pose. Fluid breath. Okay. If you want to stay at the wall, you can, or you can use a chair to come into a Patendastasana. Some of you will want a yoga strap. Some of you will be able to do it just with the lift of the leg. Strong column of the spine. We'll step the foot onto our yoga strap here, if you want to use the strap. And we'll lift, strong standing leg, lift at the knee and bring the hand to the knee. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Find that hug in, especially from the standing leg glute, the lift of the pelvic floor. Can you find your shoulder blades on the back to help support that lifting heart? And really feel up the column of your spine before you open the limb forward. Now, walk the hand down the strap as far as you can for the lift of the leg. Some of you will be down here. Some of you will come parallel to the floor. It's a lift in and up all along the spine. Some of you will open the leg out. Keep hugging in from that standing leg glute, from that standing side of the body. Perhaps the arm can rise off as well. Find your shoulder blades. And perhaps you bring the leg back in, lifting from the pelvic floor, and release. Beautiful. Okay, let's take the other side. So do you feel how awareness of this core column of the spine is essential to the strength and stability we want in poses like Patendastasana and Vashistasana? Okay, so we lift, holding on to our chair, we come into our bent knee position, and from there we balance the pelvis, we lift the pelvic floor, ground into the standing leg, ground the tailbone, and float the leg straight. Shoulder blades are on the back body. The navel in and up keeps us honest so we don't flare the ribs forward. We may rest the hyoid bone back so we can lift from the base of the skull. So we can come into whatever cues were best for us. Keeping the standing leg glute hugging in, we could bring the other leg out. We hug in from the side body of the standing leg. Shoulder blades on the back, shoulder girdle broad. Feel into being that tree, rooted and tall, even with asymmetrical limbs. And then come back to center if you like, holding with a lifted heart, with a lifted gaze, with the head resting back, and release. And pause in your mountain pose with your breath. fluid breath. Now, can we stay aware of this long, strong spine as we come into a forward fold? So if you want to use the chair in your Prasarita Patendasana forward fold, you may, or you can bring your blocks in, legs wide, lifting the heels a little farther out than the toes. We inhale and lengthen the spine from the lifting pelvic floor up. Feel into the back of the column, and before we bend, let's open the palms and find the shoulder blades on the back body. Let the hyoid bone at the neck crease rest back. Breathe sky between your vertebrae. And remember that these forward folds come from the hips. So bring your hands to the pelvis. Lift the pelvic girdle up and over the femur bones as you float forward, hollowing the groins back. Bring your hands to your props. It's a lengthening of the spine. And then from here, if you're at the chair, you may step back. If you're on blocks, you may lower them. Can you still hinge from the hips? We don't want to curl at the lumbar spine. Long, spacious spine. Perhaps you can stretch the blocks forward into a wide-legged downward dog, or you can walk back from the seat of your chair or your wall. Long, spacious spine. Fluid breath. Some of you will be able to bring your hands to the floor between your feet and let the head dangle. Be honest. We want a long spine. We don't want to cat curl the lumbar spine here. Although when we do come into the full forward fold, there may be a little rounding forward. But mainly it's a long traction spine wherever we land in the pose. And then we come back to the breath. And we feel for stillness inside the stretch. We become a quiet observer of the body, and like a friend, modify where needed to make the pose more comfortable. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. And then the hands can walk back to the pelvis or draw the blocks back, step in towards the seat, whatever you need to unhinge, and step your feet together, mountain pose. Become that tree in the forest in a gentle breeze. Let yourself sway slightly, side to side, front to back, in a circle, rooted to earth, surrounded by sky. Feel in to the very root, to the very center. Feel in along the column of your spine. Feel into the nervous system branching out from brain down spine into your fingertips and toes, into the heart and all the organs. Breathe a relaxed energy through your system. Through the rivers of energy running through the body. And rest here for a moment in standing. How much ease can you bring to standing? This may mean gently modifying your alignment or breathing out tension. Breathing in space. Take your time to wiggle, to move, to find more ease. inside the stillness of standing. In the three-dimensional breath, open the body here. Release tension. Create space. Okay. Let's come to either legs up onto the chair, or if it's available to you, legs up the wall. You may want to take your yoga strap and create a circle to hold the legs. We've spent time standing, now we're going to relax the spine. You'll step into the yoga strap and bring it up to a couple of inches, 3 inches maybe above the knees to help you hold the legs together, make it firm. And then bring whatever blankets, eye pillows you need to be comfortable, socks, and then also bring a blanket or a bolster to put under your sacrum. And then you get to walk in little baby steps until you're all together. He wonders what I'm doing. And then I think the easiest way to get into this is to sit by the wall that you're going to put your legs up against and sit pretty close to it because it's easier to scoot out than to scoot in. And roll back and spin so that your legs come up the wall. And bring your bolster or your blanket under your sacrum. You can move out from the wall a little distance if you have tight hamstrings. If you're comfortable in a Dandasana position, be as close to the wall as you can. And then bring your blanket either over you or you can run it long along the spine. And let yourself rest back. The oak leaves on the trees outside are just unfurling yesterday and today. They're partially open. Let your spine rest now. See if you can rest the column of the spine, the muscles along the spine. Rest the muscles lining the pelvis. And as you rest the belly back, you may feel muscles along the side spines, stretching, relaxing. Your shoulder girdle broad. Come into your fluid breath. See if the femur bones can rest heavy into the pelvis. The legs can relax. The feet. The arches of the feet are supported in their natural curves here. The arches can relax. And your low jaw release away from the upper jaw. And you feel for muscles deep in the jaw and invite them to release. Your tongue to relax. The muscles of your face to relax and your eyes. Every exhale, we deepen the relaxation. We deepen our awareness. Can your awareness rest in the stillness just above the waves of breath? See if you can deepen your relaxation with each exhale. Resting your mind into the stillness. It's here that we relax the nervous system. All of those channels of nerve energy traveling along the spine and out to different nerve plexes. We relax deeper with each exhale. And as we begin to come out of Shavasana, I invite you to move very slowly. First, bringing life back to fingers and toes. Noticing each finger, each toe. The palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. The wrists and the ankles. Let your awareness move through the body slowly as you stretch. Continue with your deep breath, or you roll over and relax. You want to stay with this reset of the nervous system. As we come up to a comfortable seat. And as we again feel into aligning the sit bones, the hot air balloon lifting us, and breathing space between the vertebrae, breathing water into the discs. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we find a little quiet in each day. May we feel into our bodies with curiosity and friendship. Namaste. Thank you all.